Welcome tonight to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a fantastic guest with us this evening, paranormal investigator Justin Brown, coming up with us right now. All right, Mad Hatters, we have a great Edge of the Rabbit Hole for you tonight. First of all, with me as always is Vanessa Hogle, my co-hostess. I'm Mike Ricksecker, by the way. Down in the chat room will be our chat Shananigator, Shana. She's running a little bit behind. And then our guest this evening is Justin Brown. I've been on a couple of his shows before, so we had to bring him on ours. And it's great because he has a wealth of information. Let me give you a little rundown about Justin here. Justin Brown is a freelance photographer, graphic designer, independent filmmaker, producer, and paranormal investigator from Hillsboro, Ohio, my home state, so I like this already. After experiencing profound paranormal experiences in his 20s and the untimely death of his father in 2011, Justin founded his own paranormal research group in 2013. His interest in photography, film, and paranormal was an easy marriage, which has blossomed into a brand new film company called Shadowforge Studios. In 2017, Justin teamed up with Josh Bender and started Deadlight, a company that builds custom infrared, full spectrum, and UV lights and has quickly become the most sought-after illuminator in the paranormal field. Justin's goal is to remove the para from the paranormal community through his podcast, films, and engagement with those who seek the same answers. Welcome, Justin. Great to have you on board tonight. So,
thanks.
Yeah, it's
Hi, Vanessa. Looking forward to it.
Yep. So they were having a little fun before the show. We were talking writing, books, paranormal, all that great stuff. You could blame it on me. I wasn't noticing the time. I actually ran over there to get an ink pen because I had to write down something Vanessa said, and then it was like, oh, yeah, we were supposed to go live. So
you know, this is just how we roll.
It is. We're just off the cuff. We're just off the cuff.
Yeah.
We talk shop. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We were talking shop. We were talking stuff we could very easily be talking about right now. So
let's do that.
So let's do that. So what were we talking about? Something with Bigfoot, right?
Question.
Bigfoot something and
Yeah.
Oh, the ectogasm. Yeah, we went there already.
Simmer down now. Okay.
Right out of the gate.
I know. Out of the gate, straight to the penises.
That's right.
That's what they do to me. I don't even understand it. I have a question. Just because, Justin, I don't know a whole lot, admittedly, about paranormal equipment because I really don't use any. What do you find, especially in more remote locations, that you don't have easy access to excessive amounts of electricity? What would you use? What has better staying power?
Well, that's a good question. I do a lot of that type of stuff. So what I use currently, I use a converted Zoom Q8, which is pretty much a video camera with a Zoom recorder, a 4-channel PCM recorder built into it. And I use external power, and I use an infrared light called the Deadlight. It's a wide-angled light. It projects out to 100 yards. It's very powerful. It's variable. So if I go into a closed-in location, I can dim it down and not blow everything out. But something you can power externally or with, an extra battery pack is what I use. So that would be something I would try to get into. I know some cameras that you can use, you can modify external batteries for. You can get a dummy battery and run it into an external battery, or there's actual cameras out there that have aftermarket batteries. So you don't have to worry about electricity or charging, running out batteries.
Okay. Is there, I know any woman who was investigated has run into this issue because we love leggings. They are our battle cries to tight pants. Okay. Is leggings. Is there any night vision that doesn't look directly through those? Is there any way to change? No. Hush me.
Well, there is material that it does not see through.
Can you tell us what that is so we don't look like idiots anymore?
Well, it all has to do with what's underneath behind the leggings. So if you have pale skin, if you have tattoos, of course you're going to see the contrast of that. But as far as leggings, I don't know if they make leggings out of the material that I'm thinking of. I don't think so.
I'm just tired of everybody seeing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, on the back of my honey. Anyway, I was really curious about that. I've run into that a lot with the night vision cameras, if there was any way to get past it. But I guess it's just the discomfort of jeans. So
it's the material that you're using.
Yeah. So I have a couple of photos that I snagged from your Facebook here, Justin. Of course, the one I ended up. Oh yeah, of course, the one I used for the splash page, and you've got you've got a nice rig here. I'm looking at that like this is like Robo Paranormal Investigator. You got a lot of stuff going on here, and then here's another one. That's
the Zoom Q8 with the dead light. I use a POV full spectrum for a face cam, and I have illuminator that lights my face up. You see the wires coming off for external power. I got the headphones and the headlight lamp going. So yeah, I do it all. I go all out for it.
Do you find that having all of the gear might interfere with any more of your sensitive abilities?
100%.
Okay. So how do you rectify that? Or how do you reconcile that?
What we are starting to do consistently is have the investigators on the team take turns not filming or gathering data with recorders and any gear whatsoever. Okay. They may have a flashlight. They might just have a recorder, or because we use wireless mics run into, a recorder that records, like an audio engineer would, a field recorder. So we just mic them up, give them a flashlight, and let them investigate using their own senses. And you're absolutely correct. If you're staring at a monitor and you're trying to use the gear, you're not going to use any metaphysical ability whatsoever.
In your opinion, since you do both, and since you have experience with others doing both, do you find that one is better than the other, or are they equally as important to complement each other?
In my research, it's equally important because I see validity in psychic ability, in all the subsets that fall under that. It has to be investigated along with the paranormal. We need, if I'm going to validate the paranormal, metaphysics is part of the paranormal. So we're going to investigate what people's abilities are, the extent of them, how to keep them consistent. Why is it, the accuracy, why does it fall? Why is it good at sometimes? I'm a data gatherer, so I have to gather that data right along with it. I'm just as curious about that as I am ghosts and all the other stuff.
Okay, so you have down in the chat, Josh Bender's giving up some of your dirty secrets here. But maybe it's not specifically you, but he says, I have filmed people when they were wearing leather pants and it looks like they're wearing no pants at all. So,
see, I'm just fucked. Any way you look at it.
That's funny.
So with all that equipment that you're using, and this is kind of almost like a generic question. And there's a $10 super chat from Atomic Nicholas. He says, "So Vanessa can buy non-see-through leggings." But with all that equipment, and I did tell Josh that I'm going to buy one of the lights here when one of these days, Haunted Road Media is going to get a nice 4K camera for the investigations. We're going to get one of your lights. But what's your favorite piece of equipment?
It has to be the Zoom Q8. There is much better cameras out there with better sensors. I like the Sony line. There's definitely a lot of cameras out there that have, night vision features to them. They're really nice. But the reason why I like the Zoom Q8, it's got the video. It was converted to infrared by Gotcha Ghost. All you got to do is remove the IR filter and thread the lens back in. And I think the IR conversion of the Zoom Q8, they actually added another filter in there because that gets all techie. You may not want to get into that. But the recording capabilities that Zoom has within the Zoom Q8, it's pretty much like a H4n Pro with a camera. It's got 2 XLR external inputs. You can, put in microphones. We use certain audio setups to where we need that. It's got analog gain controls. You don't have to navigate through the LCD. You can close the LCD you want and bump up the volume and gain levels with the analog dials. It's very small, very lightweight. As you can see, you just put it on, a little shoulder rig and you barely notice it's there. So it has to be that thing. You can pretty much just go about your business with that thing, get all the good audio and video you want. And I'll also add that the mics that come with it are detachable. You can change out that, the shotgun mic with a stereo condenser mic or any other mic that Zoom has with their interchangeable capsules. So that's a huge bonus.
In regards to the mics, do you find that one or a particular setting works better on gathering EVPs than others, or is it just based on the type of energy that a particular spirit can produce in order to be heard?
That's definitely a good question. One mic setup we use is called an RVPR. That stands for Roundtree Voice Phenomena Recorder, coined by Paul Browning. And pretty much David Roundtree came up with this huge, high, expensive techie device that allowed, 2 dynamic microphones to be run into a recorder to cross-check to see if electromagnetic frequencies and fields would manipulate the coils inside the dynamic mics to create EVP, hence why we can't hear them, but they come across. But I kind of put my own spin on that. I use shotgun mics because some of the dynamic mics have cancellation coils in them, kind of like the headphones do. So if they get the interference, it cancels out. So I'm sure Mike has used a shotgun mic before, and if you put a cell phone near it, you get the interference. So that's the theory. We don't know what causes EVP, but that, if we cross things off the list, if you have a hypothesis, you can test them. Mm-hmm. So my suggestion would be to get good stuff. Don't buy cheap recorders. Definitely don't buy a DR60 and use that. Get high-end prosumer or even professional grade microphones and recording equipment. That's my tip.
Okay. We have a question here from Devil's Hour Production. How do you cross-check audio with the person who doesn't have a face cam or equipment?
You don't.
There you go.
If you don't mic everybody that's there, you can't, check their recordings to see if they made a noise or if they were causing anything that you pick up on a recorder or a camera. So, if you go back to the photo again, you'll see a full spectrum POV pointed straight at my face. And then we use lavalier wireless mics. We're recording ourselves very well in our face very well. And we're recording a wide field in front of us. We generally like to use, fisheye or wide field cameras just so we can capture. It's almost like eyesight in a way. It's 160 degrees and eyesight's nearly at 180. So we're just getting everything. So if something comes across, we cross-check it. If you don't have it, you can't.
Have you ever tried using 360 cams with that kind of cross-check?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. The thing with those is the 4K ones, you can convert those, but they become full spectrum, and a lot of people will get a blurry vision, blurry quality of video, and that's caused by the lens and the sensor is not designed to see infrared and full spectrum lighting with what's available on the camera. So you will run in trouble. But if you just use a regular 360 camera without converting it with normal white light, that's actually good. I have tried mounting those on to people's shoulders as a POV camera, but that's great on paper. You run into issues with that. We do run into issues with setting up all this gear before and breaking it down after with all the limited time you have. So there's pros and cons to using all that stuff. Sometimes you're probably just better off going in there with minimal things, get the job done, get out, and you might, spend less time dealing with all the headaches of all the gear.
Now, let me ask you, do you find on the investigations, and excuse me, I'm sure that nobody in your camp would do this, but for anyone out there researching this and wanting to put together a team or anything to go out and investigate, do you find having all of that equipment really enables you to weed out any fakery, any issues that somebody new coming into the group might have as wanting to prove that they got something, when you can actually go through all the footage and there's multiple view cams of everything and see, no, you didn't get something, you caused something. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, our setup's designed to do that.
Okay.
All the false positives out there. I've caught, my investigators saying things under their breath or making noises that they don't remember because their memory's not designed to remember everything we do. Mm-hmm. So we debunk a lot of stuff with that. And live streaming is definitely useful. As long as you're not monitoring chat 90% of the time and you're focusing on investigating, that eliminates a lot of fakery that groups can do. So I advocate live streaming as long as it's not interfering with the investigation and you're not trying to put on some type of show while you're doing it. You're just doing it because it's raw.
One of the groups that I work with out of England, they do live stream, only really live stream, unless it's a group investigation, a large group. And there is always one person designated to follow and monitor chat. Mm-hmm. That way everybody else is free to do what they need to be doing. So, I mean, I can completely see the validity of that. So I'm just, anything that we can do to keep the tampering and the mishaps and the fakery to a minimum is all good in my book.
Absolutely.
Yep. So a couple other questions from the chat here from Sharon Lane. Are most of your investigations in Ohio?
Actually, the last couple of years, no. We've been in Indiana a lot. We go to Pennsylvania. We went to Pennsylvania last year. Went to I'm trying to think if we went into Kentucky at all, but I think we were in Indiana mostly. The residentials, we try to stay closer, and the reason for that is the obvious. Investigating a residential is you probably would have to go through a much longer, drawn out process. Of course, you should with any investigation you do, but most of the time you're pay and play places. You can't afford to do that. And to book those places, even if you could afford it, would be, as difficult. But I think there's a fair share. The list that we have for 2019, there's probably maybe one or two more, but we're trying to expand our reach a little bit, maybe more into Kentucky. We just want to kind of broaden our scope when it comes to different, places that we're not familiar with, like Kentucky. We've hit Indiana hard. There's only a few places that we'd like to go left in Indiana. Pennsylvania is just drenched with history. West Virginia's got a lot of cool places, and even going beyond that. But it's hard. If you take a production company with you, we have team members that are out of state and that travel long distances to begin with, even if they're coming to Ohio, it's difficult. Costs a lot of money. They all, they have jobs. Juggling it is difficult. So,
yeah, absolutely. Now, let me ask you something. So I know you're very much into paranormal research, and I like your approach. You do a lot of investigations. You do also several different shows, kind of like we do, and I like how you've reached out to paranormal investigators, psychics, skeptics, and kind of getting a well-rounded perspective of all things supernatural and paranormal. So given all that, all the investigations you've done, all the research you've done, what's a little different than, I don't know, maybe mainstream theology here with the paranormal? What do you think is a little different that you've sort of figured out or deduced?
A lot of the paranormal has to do with the mind. The mind is everything. Faith has to do with a lot of things. People's beliefs have a lot to do with what can be imaginary and what can be very real. Trying to prove to what extent we can manifest things physically and in this reality is very interesting to me. Stuff like PK, your poltergeist stuff, even urban legends. Like if you go to a Crybaby Bridge place and you gather evidence that supports the legend, but there is no such thing that happened there. People go there. over and over and over believing in it and fueling that location. Does it manifest? I'm seeing evidence that it does. Not hardcore evidence, but something to consider in further research because of what I've initially found at these locations. So deducing, what aspects of the mind has to do with what's real and what's not real is what I'm trying to do. But the further down the rabbit hole you go, no pun intended here, the more you find out that there's more to deduce, psychologically, theologically, there's so many things to consider, but the mind is definitely something that you want to know about. Your psychology, your neurology, how we think, why we think the way, how folklore influences us, how pop culture influences us, how the brain works. You have to, see the skeptical, you have to see the supernatural, and try to find a middle ground. Try to ride that fence as well as you can so you can keep yourself open-minded, because there's plenty of stuff to see on both sides and to gather your data from. Well, hopefully that answered your question.
No, it was a great answer, and it leads to more questions. So, going down the rabbit hole of the mind, everybody has different ideas, different beliefs. You're going into investigation with usually more than one person. So for me, it's usually Shana and I, but for others, it might be 5, 6, 7, however many. So now you have all these different mindsets, all these different ideas and beliefs that each of these different people have that they could be possibly projecting, or maybe they're kind of the other side where they take in more than they put out. But as they're doing that, something's happening to them. How do you think all those different mindsets going into a location like that are able to affect each other during the investigation?
A lot. The things that we do with the metaphysical studies that we do, we try to do double-blind experiments. We try to keep the sensitives and the psychics in the dark. So when they come in, they're not interacting with each other. They go through, they document what they pick up on, and then they go. And then the next one comes in, they do the same, and then they go. We cross-check those if there's 2 or more. We cross-check that with the reports and what the homeowners or the property owners, location owners claim, what other investigators claim. It's all about cross-checking all the way through. I like what you say when, people project their own beliefs and they kind of influence the group a little bit. The leaders of the group is usually the most influential part of the whole research team. What they kind of view and what they think and what they believe kind of seeps into what they start believing and what they start thinking. So my role is to stay objective, not to try to project all those things onto them. It's very difficult. So when we go into the locations, I try not to say everything that I feel or everything that I think. So as long as you try to control that and just go in kind of like robots, maybe that will help. But it's definitely something you have to consider and be aware of.
Well, one other thing that you also have to consider is, there's main things that affect any type of paranormal investigation, whether that's the investigation aspect or the paranormal activity that happens during it. And that is, like you said, religion, trauma of the location, trauma to any of the investigators prior to the location. Trauma makes us more sensitive. Hormonal imbalance makes us more sensitive. Rushes of testosterone make men more sensitive or more aggressive. If all these different things, even something as simple as your blood sugar, can actually affect the way that you receive and perceive information when you are at what would be considered an active location. Or if it's not considered active and it becomes active because of you, or in my case, a lot of times because of me, what did I do? What did I bring into it? What were my emotions at the time of entering that might have caused a disturbance in order to allow it to show itself? These are all the little things that we have to look at as well. It isn't just this place is haunted, this place is haunted, this place isn't, and everyone that goes in is equal. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
Every single thing plays a factor.
Yeah, and that would answer the question for me, why others experience things and others don't, why locations seem to be active one time and then they don't. Does it have something to do with the people that are there and how they interact with the environment, like you suggested, what they project and imprint the environment with? It's like a recipe to a cake. Sometimes you get a nice, good tasting cake. The other time it's just nothing. You don't got nothing. So
sometimes it's made with love, sometimes it's not.
There's factors, paranormal investigators are trying to find the factors, the data to give answers to why this happens.
Absolutely. Even certain foods can make you more sensitive.
That's interesting.
I don't realize that, but it's true.
We have a couple of questions coming through the chat. I want to get to this one first because it's relevant to what we're talking about now, and then I'll get to a couple of these others. But this one's from Sharon Lane. Justin, you had mentioned a moment ago fueling an investigation. She's wondering with what? Your energy?
Sometimes if you are, like, say, if you're a group that does a meeting before, most of the times our meetings involve logistics and production, how to get the production stuff done. And another part of it is, okay, what's the history? Are we going to try to correlate the history with the claims and the stories and the legends? How are we going to do that? And then we may start talking about, what we think of those locations. Sometimes the metaphysicists in the group will talk about dreams. And sometimes I'll tell them to hold off on that before the end. But to write it down and give me the paper so I know they came up with it before they went. So it can get complicated. So that's what I mean. But I don't want to leave out that we can't, vibe each other in certain ways, because the people who are sensitive and empathic and psychic in the group can be influenced, infected by anybody in the group in a good way or a bad way. Now, empaths are particularly interesting because sometimes they will influence how you pick up on certain things through them, because they kind of use other people and other vibes and emotions, if they're not from the location, from the people there. And if they're not keen on that mechanic, it can definitely influence them. So it can get really interesting and very complex very quickly.
True story.
Absolutely. So we have apparently there's a bit of a demand down in the chat. I was keeping on the current topic, but there's a demand down in the chat for how you feel about the SLS camera and if you think they're effective. And Fran is asking that, but there are some others down there too.
Okay. Everybody that's interested in the SLS camera should read a article written by Kenny Biddle, which is a skeptic and paranormal investigator. He started off as a ghost hunter.
Yep.
So he wrote a fantastic article where he researched how the SLS works. He got a hold of the manufacturers and the firmware developers to ask them specific questions about how it works. And the end game on that is it's so susceptible to false positives from how investigators use them wrongly. They're designed to set up stationary. They're only designed to see about 8 feet, 3 to 4 to 8 feet away. And you're not supposed to have anything that the SLS can pick up in the range of detection other than you. The reason that is, it's designed to lock onto things that they think that's people there and create appendages, a body and legs. If it picks up on something but it doesn't have appendages, it creates them. So that's, you will see the little jiggly arms and they think they're waving and they think they're dancing. That's just the software just compensating for not seeing legs there.
Sure.
And if you use an SLS camera, you will see it lock onto vacuum cleaners, lamps, chairs, everything. So if you watch the ghost hunting shows, you will see a chair, it'll lock, a little person will lock onto it there. Or they're handheld all the time, and they're panning with them.
Yeah, and I think you have to keep in mind of what it was originally designed for, the game system, which we kept that because my kids had a Kinect, and we keep it there on top of the entertainment center, so we weren't walking around with it. And sure, I've walked around with one before because I have one. And it's almost kind of pointless because it's not able to pick anything up for like but a second, and then it drops off. And so, and usually I'm just picking it up to, bring it to one place to another. But yeah, you have to set it down on a surface. But I have gotten some interesting interaction there. If you leave it set up on a surface like that for a while, and and you're looking right at it, it's just there's a blank wall over there, and then there's something. And obviously it's moving a little bit. So
what I'm looking for is how it works. It projects all these little infrared lasers out, and they are perceived as dots. When you see them as dots, they're hitting a surface. So if you're looking at a SLS camera at the infrared or full spectrum camera, you're seeing those dots being projected. Now, how it works is it has to hit a surface, kind of like FLIR, to read something. So if you're looking at the SLS camera and you're picking up something, take an infrared camera with no illuminators and look. If you see something like a laser grid getting blocked there, then you're picking up something. But if it's just hitting the wall and you're not seeing anything, then it's just the software creating it. That's a way to know if it is actually bouncing off something and coming back.
What would would the software be creating it off of if it's just a blank wall?
It's designed to do that. It's almost like vibration control in a camera lens, like in Nikon's, but in Canon it's a little different. It's called motion stabilization. I'm sure you're familiar with it a little bit. If you leave it on but you keep the camera stationary, it's constantly searching and floating. So think of the SLS camera like that. If there's nothing there to detect, it will try very, 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 very hard to create something. Now, I can't tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's just the software. So that's something I kind of eliminate from my research. If I can't validate it, I really don't want to use it. But like I mentioned, if you put up something that can see the formation, kind of like the predator cloaked effect, that's something that I want to see with the SLS, if it's actually bouncing off of something you can't see visibly with your eyes.
All right. I think there's a couple other questions in here. Yeah, the Haglin was asking how it actually works, which you just answered.
There's an article. Just Google SLS camera Kenny Biddle, and you'll find it.
Yeah, Kenny's a good guy. I know Kenny. Yep. All right. So, well, that's how you feel about the SLS camera. What's some other controversial ones? I got to throw this out there because I know we've talked about it on this show, and I actually mentioned on your show the other week, but and I know you do some research in this area. Mm-hmm. So the Ghost Box.
Ghost Box is definitely something I've researched. What I think now is if you sweep radio frequencies that are receiving radio, there is no way possible that you can validate anything that comes through it. And I agree with everything you say about it. The only thing that we do now is we use the white noise generated from it. I do believe you may be able to get something from white noise, because if something comes through, especially if it comes through as an EVP on another recorder and that you don't hear it in real time, because I have done that. It's really rare. But spirit boxes are being used wrong. There's no way to validate it unless I do have a technique. It's a device that you set up. You take two SB7s, for example, you hook them up, and you can sync those up because you can start them off on the same channel at the same rate. You sweep them and sync them up. You run them into a recorder. Now, there's two theories. If it's an internal manipulation, you will be able to cross-check one or the other to see if it receives something different than the other SB7. If that happens, that should be physically impossible. The other theory is that it's manipulated in the air. So I just run those two SB7s over a wireless mic transmitter and hook the receiver up to the same recorder, record that. So if something differs from one end and the other, then you can validate, in air manipulation. So I do that with the whole setup. But guess what? I haven't validated any yet. So That's what I think about. I mean, it's audio pareidolia. You know, it's creating those constant feedbacks that we're wanting on TV and that we need during dead time investigations to give us something.
Yeah, and that's what I've always thought. I mean, I think the television shows, have made it really popular because it's that immediate reaction. And I know from doing live streams, live investigations, there is that pressure to perform. To me, once you cave into that, I think you've compromised the investigation.
You should never do that at all.
Never. Now, what do you think about, and I don't mean any offense to anybody who uses these, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What do you think about the apps and stuff like that? I mean, I'm sorry. I find it a little convenient that somebody can hold their phone or another device that's man-made, that could be programmed, and it's a demon. Just oh, hi, I'm a demon, I'm going to hop on in here to this location that you're at and say, hey. I just don't think it works that way.
That's a complex question that has a complex answer. It depends on the app, how it works.
I don't have any of them, so I'm just curious.
There's the ghost radar that is the good ones are supposed to detect EMF fields like the app to a compass app would, and those work. Okay. And some of them work well, but they're susceptible to the same thing K2s are susceptible to, and EF meters are susceptible to. So if you use them correctly, great. Now, how well the ghost radars that you're using is working, that is what you don't know. So you have to trust the programmer and the app developer that you're using it. And I have friends and electrical engineers that have reverse engineered some of the apps. One of them was the Ovilus. When they cracked that open, they found an accelerometer in there. And every time you move the accelerometer, it spits out a random word. So you ever watch the ghost shows or ever watch videos, as soon as they move it, a word will pop out. And sometimes it'll just pop out stuff randomly.
I've talked specifically on this show before about the Ovilus, in which I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that as you move between modes, it will just randomly come out with a couple words. And I was on an investigation one time where it was the first time I'd ever really used it. And I was like, oh, I see how it's working. It's as it's moving between modes, kicking off a little EM burst or whatever as it's switching between those. And so I basically discarded it. Well, another guy I was investigating with kept moving it back and forth. Thought he was talking with somebody because it was just randomly popping out these words. Like,
it was triggering the accelerometer in it.
Okay.
Because when you touch it, when you hit the device, the accelerometer senses it.
Okay.
Wow. So like the shows that use things like that, where it pops out a word and everyone's like, oh, it's popping out a word because there's a word that's in it, and basically they just triggered it.
Here's a rule of thumb for your viewers. Investigate your equipment, learn your equipment, then investigate the paranormal with that.
There you go.
Correctly.
That's a very good way to put that.
Learn how it works first before you actually start using it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I just use this.
So you got to learn how it works first, though.
I know.
The same goes for that. That's what I'm saying.
You don't want to get up in here.
So
I will next Wednesday.
I know, right?
So this one's from Joni, Mama Joe Buffalo Woman. Good to see you.
Hi, Joni.
She asks, thoughts on Huffs Portal. Would you try it? Or have you ever tried it? Either one?
No. I would not try that.
Because you don't have any opinions there.
Well, Steve Huff is very controversial. He's very popular and very controversial. Let's just talk about the device. The device is a speaker with an amplifier in it. It's got primarily two control or guitar pedals on it. One is a denoiser. It takes out all the noise and static, so it gives you clear responses from the RF or the app that you're hooking up to it. And the other one is usually a reverb pedal, or some people even use a reverse delay pedal. And all that does is you hear something forward, then it reverses it 2, 3, 4 times, however you set it. And that's what you got. So you've got this glorified amplifier with all these effects pedals running a spirit box or an app. So that's just what it is. you can just use the app or the ghost box or whatever you're using without it. If you're trying to eliminate white noise, then the pedal's going to do that. But what are you doing? You're just hearing the radio frequencies. You still need to validate that the radio frequencies are spirits. There you go.
Awesome. Yep. And I think we just heard something similar the other night in which it was clearly a song. Well, Shana and I think are going to talk about that a little bit later.
Show? Yeah,
I don't know.
Who was that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Not saying nothing.
And this is one that's from Mickey Dole. What do you think about using a baby monitor? Is that legit? Can that work?
There's pros and cons to that. The first con that comes to my mind is there might be other baby monitors. If you're investigating in town, there might be other baby monitors on the same frequency that you are hearing. And if you're using transmitters and receivers, your receiver will pick up other baby monitor transmitters on your same frequency, possibly. So you definitely don't want that. If you're in a rural area, that's going to be a little bit more rolled out, but it's not impossible. The pros to it is pretty cool because maybe your presence in the location you're wanting to investigate is disturbing or not, you're not getting anything. So you can kind of back off and then investigate that location remotely. We actually use a remote control truck with a wireless microphone, a radio and meters and recorders, and we drive it into the location and remote view it that way. But that's kind of like a low-tech way would be a baby monitor. So as long as you consider that you could be picking up other baby monitors or other transmitting devices on that frequency. If you can eliminate that and control that, sure.
And I'm going to take this opportunity because you were just talking about that to explain to people how easy that is. In one of the dental offices I worked in, it was so large, we used walkie-talkies. If I had $1 for every time I got truckers on my walkie-talkies when I'm trying to call for a doctor and a truck driver umpteen miles away would answer me, that tells you how easy it is to catch something else on your frequency. We were constantly having to change the channels of our walkie-talkies because we were picking up truck drivers who were cursing and saying horrible things, and I've got a child in the chair.
I've even picked up radio frequencies on my guitar amplifier before.
Yes, it can and does happen more than you think. So before you assume that what you're getting through that speaker is a spirit, ask it where it's at. See if it answers you Duluth, Minnesota, or Tucson, Arizona, or it's looking for In-N-Out Burger. I mean, ask it, okay? Because you just might have a trucker.
You could.
Holy stereotypes, Batman.
I know.
No, I mean, that's kind of like that trick that my dad pulled on us when we were kids. We're out in the backyard, we're playing around with the walkie-talkies, and he has a CB radio, and the way that he was talking to us through the because we didn't know it was him, but the way we were picking up on it, we thought it was a cop and he was going to come get us because of whatever. We're kids and we're kind of being creative with what in the world was about to happen to us. But yeah, I mean that same thing would happen in that case. Missed it a little while ago. Andrew Cox with the $10 super chat. He's looking for Zara the Zombie Doll t-shirts. So, all right. All right. So another equipment question. This one's from Tom McNicholas. He's wondering, Justin, what do you think of the Periscope?
I've never used it before, but I'm pretty sure the Periscope isn't that a static?
Static, yeah.
Yeah, it detects static. That could be susceptible to a lot of false positives. There's static charges everywhere. So if you can eliminate and control static fields, sure. It's the main problem with all these gadgets and devices is controlling the environment, and the environment in which we ghost hunt and investigate mostly is not very well controlled. That's the reason you see me looking like a fool with the camera facing here, camera facing there, mics everywhere. It's because I'm trying
all this
to
stuff,
keep tabs and everything. Yeah, I'm trying to keep tabs on what's in front of me, what my face is doing, what my investigators are doing. I put recorders on the outside of the building and the inside of the building, and I spend years going through it to make sure that chipmunk didn't cause that demon growl. Okay, so and control the environment is so hard. And with the Periscope, if you can do that, great. But if we spend more time trying to eliminate false positive and spend more time trying to control the environment and, keeping tabs on that lack of control and trying to develop setups and methodologies that will allow us to peer through that lack of a control, then you're going to have a better job. You're going to do a better job. But it's so difficult because let me tell you, Waverly Hills, that place is the noisiest place you could possibly go to investigate. It's so difficult. And it's one of the most active places. I mean, when I first went in there, Tina wouldn't let me film her, so I had to put it on my camera. I didn't have anything. I was going through the tour. I was feeling, oh my God, it was horrible feeling. It was the most horrible residual energy I've felt in a location. Wow. And it's because how it started off. All that gadgetry wasn't affecting the way a location can impact you. And I'll tell you what, I feel from the bottom of my heart and soul for anybody who would suffer, from tuberculosis in a geriatric hospital, being, subjected to poor, help, there's not enough people to help you in your dying days. Oh my God, it's just the compounding thousands and thousands of people going through that in that location is legit. Okay. That stuff lingers. In my belief, that stuff is there. It lingers. It may even be there from the end of time. I don't know, but it definitely hasn't subsided or left in 2018. And 19.
Yeah, it's there, but to actually, because of your saying how noisy it is, it becomes harder to actually prove that it's there. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this. So, like with EMF detectors, I've seen people that, the skeptics that will talk against them, that say things like, well, the Earth has its own electromagnetic field, so, EMF detector is not going to do you any good. And then you also have like the exact opposite of that, where you have, these people that are like, oh, I got a hit on the K2, that means it's a ghost, which is ridiculous. But how do you address somebody like that who's saying, well, because you're talking about trying to control the environment, and that's something right there. There's no way you're going to be able to control the Earth's magnetic field. So to me, it's a legitimate point, but also from my understanding that, this detector is not going to pick up on that. Otherwise, it would everywhere you go. I mean, that's just my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, the magnetic field the Earth gives off is very low frequency, and on the surface, it's even lower. The magnetic field lines go way past our atmosphere. If you're at the North and South Pole, where you see the aurora borealis pouring in, now there's going to be magnetic fields concentrated there. But near the equator and where we at presently, no. So if someone's making that, debate, they obviously don't understand magnetic fields and the Earth's magnetic field.
Right.
I was in the middle of the woods in Virginia. I've been all over the world. I will state right now, Virginia is one of the most haunted places I've ever been, ever. Mm-hmm. And we were in the middle of the woods, no power lines, no nothing. Walked into this abandoned barn, had like a 1.2 on that little doohickey, that little detector thingy. 3 feet inside the barn, it jumped up to almost a 9 point something.
On one of these?
Yeah, that thing right there. Yeah.
Okay.
We hauled ass out simply because the last time we had something like that, it was really bad.
Magnetic fields are scary. They're terrifying.
This thing was really bad. And so we did not stay to try to get any type of information on that, because I don't give a fuck about proving anything. Mm-hmm. That's one of those instances where there's absolutely no rhyme or reason to it. There's no arguing the fact that there was no electrical lines, nothing. It was simply a span of 3 feet that took it from 1.2 to 9 point something.
Those are good places to go research and investigate. away from, I've had stuff happen 20 miles away from any electrical, anything.
Exactly. And it's really hard to explain to somebody that if they've never experienced it, because all they have to go by is what they see on TV or the paid ghost hunts. That's all they've got. Mm-hmm. It's completely different.
Yeah. Totally different vibe. The debate whether, the presence of a ghost or spirit or the actual essence of it, if there's a magnetic field associated with that, it has to have an electrical charge. And if it does have an electrical charge, it could go along with the theory that the magnetic field's an electrical charge or somehow manipulating the transducers in our microphones, causing EVP and a wider range of other phenomena that we're experiencing with electronic devices. Like the age of electronics and technology, we're starting to see more phenomena, and that might be why. The paranormal field is doing a lot of things wrong. The education and the methodologies aren't there. So it's giving fuel to skeptics saying that we don't know what we're doing. So, if I was going to say anything to end off this show is, please, the people with the knowledge and the money, investigate this shit. Okay? Just throw the money at it and investigate it, please. They're digging underground caves with neutrino sensors that detect neutrinos coming through the universe. Millions and millions of dollars on that to detect a fucking neutrino. Let's detect something else more productive.
There you go.
I mean, I understand.
Get somebody with some bucks in here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help it. I'm sorry.
No, but you know that they won't. You know that they won't, because one of the ways that people are monitored, albeit controlled to a certain degree in this world, especially in this country, is through religion. And if we can prove what we already know to exist, all that gets thrown out the window.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Very good
so, unfortunately, it won't happen. The times that they've tried, it's been used for military purposes, and understandably so, with remote viewing, like what I do, different things like that. That's been used for espionage purposes, military purposes, spy purposes, whatever you want to call it, but never to prove it existed so that we have answers, just so we have tools. Therein lies the difference. They're not going to go for answers. Answers, free people. You can't have free people.
Darn it.
Well, we have a couple of more questions here, and then we'll get to wrapping up the show here in a little bit. Too many people, same tag. The question is, when digital watches first came out, the backs were not shielded, so people with extra electricity in their body would wipe them. Does some of the equipment work that way as well?
I don't know about that phenomena, so I don't have a lot to say about it. I would say that static electricity on the body could do that. Any magnetic field could do that. I don't know. Yes, the gadgets are susceptible to anything like that. But I don't know if anything that's emanating or radiating from the body that can do that. Not in my experience.
Probably the strangest one.
I kill watches. I can't wear watches. I kill watches.
Probably the strangest one that I've seen was, there was this woman that I used to work with back when I was in the Air Force, and she picked up static electricity like crazy. Like anywhere she'd walk on the floor, if there was a little bit of carpet, she was always zapping somebody. Well, she sat down, went to turn on her computer monitor, and her finger was like several inches away, just headed toward the button, but there was like basically an electric bolt that shot out from her finger to the computer monitor and just fried the whole thing.
Yeah, I can explain to you what static electricity is and how it works. Now, we do have a metaphysicist on the team, Missy Vastine. If I put a wireless mic on her and try to get her audio, it's static most of the time. So there must be some type of field. If you look into quantum field theory, particles vibrate in corresponding fields to create matter and to create the particles. I believe the same for the psychic phenomena. There's a vibrating field that, that exists. Whatever the vibration is, whatever, that's what you get. So if you're vibrating in that psychic field, it could disturb electronic devices, just like ghosts do, just like paranormal stuff does.
She needs to have her aura photo taken.
Yeah, that would be a great one.
That was actually brought up on one of my shows. It was like the coronal discharge photography. I forget what it's called. You know what I'm talking about?
So aura photography, yeah.
He told me to look into it, but I was like, man, you got to have high voltage for that. I don't know if it's an application.
No. It's you'll have to look around to see if there's a place near you that does it. We have a place here. I actually have 2 photos side by side taken 5 minutes apart. One shows me shielded and one shows me with my shield down.
Interesting.
And one, I look like I'm in a box.
Okay.
And otherwise it's a rainbow that's over me. I've had them done where I'm solid green, had them done where I'm solid red. It's your energy at that time. And I would be very interested to see hers. You're completely covered except for your head so that no colors you're wearing can affect it. You're in front of a black backdrop and your hands go on these 2 sensors. Okay. And they've got like the handprints, the metal handprints on them, and your hands go on it. And then they take the picture, and it's a Polaroid. It's not a digital photograph.
Right.
And they're really, really, really interesting. It would be very cool to see hers.
I have had other psychics and sensitives tell me that they didn't want to work with her because they couldn't deal with her energy. So
that's silly.
I thought so too.
You should enhance each other, not fear each other.
That's what it does for me. You know, Missy is who I'm talking about. I like having her near me because I use her, you know, to do stuff metaphysically because I feed off of that. It amplifies me. That's
the way it should be.
Well, I guess it's it's personality clashing. I don't know.
People fear getting overshadowed.
Fear.
I don't give a fuck. So I'll work with her anytime.
There you go. So there was a question I just saw from Tammy Heitzman. Is there a way to take a pic of your aura with special filters or anything?
Not that's valid. You really do need the proper equipment. You can go to some psychic fairs and they will have something similar, but nothing quite like the original setup that I've had multiple ones taken on. None that I would consider valid. It really research and check. Very few people have this, but the ones that do and they have the proper equipment, it is an excellent tool to find out where you're at on your journey, what you need to work on, how many guides you might have, and where you need to go, how you need to progress. It really is a wonderful tool.
Very cool. Justin, Little Dort Lisa was wondering, have you ever investigated Corpsewood Manor?
No, I have not. Never heard of it.
Okay. Well, then I guess we can't answer any questions about that. Darn. Some people down chat were wondering if you could explain a Faraday cage.
I could, yes. A Faraday cage is pretty much a metal apparatus that's grounded to the earth that will shield you from electricity, from magnetic fields. It was widely used and made popular by Nikola Tesla because he would make these huge coils that would conduct a lot of electricity, static electricity, and arc, and he would put himself in the Faraday cages and be protected by them. The use in paranormal research, the application for it is if you can shield a ghost box in a Faraday cage, you can shield it from RF being received by the receiver on the radio. That would be something useful. If you wanted to control outside EMF or electrical interference from your environment that you're trying to keep in lab condition, that would be used. But it's not practical. To actually have a correct Faraday cage is not practical. A lot of people would take tin foil and shield. That's just going to shield. It's not actually a Faraday cage, and it has to be grounded too. So that's why I don't really use them, because they're not practical. You can't really carry around, multi-purpose Faraday cages for everything you do. And if we could put a Faraday cage around, somewhere like Waverly or a haunted school or a hospital, sure. But can you? No.
You mean wearing a tinfoil hat doesn't actually work?
It will shield to a particular degree, but it will not stop completely.
Right.
And it's not pretty unless you put flowers on it.
Well, there's that. There's that.
Just saying.
All right. Well, we're getting down to the end of the show here. Justin, where can everybody find you?
Interfacedeath.net. interfacedeath.net. You will see everything. Social media, videos, and you contact us there. Just everything we do is the hub of everything we do. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Google Plus, if that's what you do for some reason. And we do live shows all the time. I have 3 of them. I do one on Tuesday, every Tuesday. It's called My Paranormal Soapbox. If you go on Facebook and just look up Justin Brown on my blog page, I stream it from there. And on the Interface Death YouTube channel, I stream it there. Wednesdays, I do the Necromancer live show. I interview people such as Mike and Vanessa on that show. I try to learn from people, promote what they do, strengthen the paranormal community through intelligent interaction on the web. And it's never a dull time. The new show I have is interesting. On Live Paranormal's Facebook page, I stream a show called the Supernatural Symposium. I get a psychic, I get an investigator, and I get a skeptic. I put them in one panel and talk about paranormal stuff. And so far, no one's died.
No, not yet, because we can't touch each other. But it's an interesting show because there are some differing opinions in there, and so yeah,
that's the beauty of it.
It is.
I'm trying to get people in an environment to see. I'm just curious. It's like an experiment. I want to see. I don't want it to happen, but I want to see if people can just conduct themselves in an intelligent manner. No keyboard worrying, fighting. You're there. You're seeing each other like we're seeing each other now, face to face. Let's interact. Let's see how grown up, put your big boy pants on and just be a good person and talk about the things and see where we're coming from. It's a cool show. So that's where you can, that's all I got. I mean, I want to shout out Derek Schreiner and Missy Vastine, Josh Bender, Jessica Bias helps me out with my shows, and my wife Christy, she allows me to do all this stuff. And Matt Bitton, he's going to be coming back over to the Midwest to join Interface Death very soon. We're doing a film together. You probably would have heard about it by now. It's called Man vs. Paranormal. I got all kinds of stuff coming out from Shadowforge Studios on the YouTube channel and on the website. So hopefully you guys check it out.
And absolutely. I will be talking to you next Wednesday.
That's right, at 8 p.m. Eastern.
So 7 my time. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's get to some quick shout outs and then we'll sign off and get to Inside the Upside Down, which we're going to be talking about. Are you haunted by a demon? No. That's going to be a fun show.
No. See you guys later.
Yeah. So, all right, real quick. Our Super Chat superstars, Tom McNicholas and Andrew Cox, thank you both very much for your Super Chats this evening. Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons. So we do have a Patreon presence. That's patreon.com/hauntedroadmedia. That would be Tom McNicholas, Beat 3, Airspace, Zippy Davis, Pamela Queen, Joe Chandler, and Andrew Cox. Thank you very much for being Deep Down the Rabbit Hole Patreon patrons, and we have many other patrons there as well. So Shananigator Shana was able to make it, which is fantastic. Thank you very much, Shana. And then Donna Gorton, our Cheshire Cat, in the house tonight. Thank you as well. So we have Sharon Lane, Tammy Heitzman, Tim Schoen. Thank you all very much. Jin R. All Rogue, thank you for joining us. Dustin Samara's down there. Thanks for joining us tonight, Dustin. Fran Molino's in the house. There's Beat 3 Airspace. Denise Pridemore was here. Thanks for joining us tonight, Denise. Devil's Hour Productions, thanks for your questions this evening. Mama Joe Buffalo Woman, great to see you, Joni. There's EQ. Thank you once again. There's Joe Chandler. Thank you as well. Papa Nana Paranormal Investigations. Thanks for popping in and joining us tonight. Creative Corvus Arts, Mickey Dole. Thank you for joining us again. There's Little Dorrit Lisa. Thanks for your questions tonight. Candy Orton. I'm going to be on Candy's show tomorrow, so be sure to check that out. Scotty Fox. Thanks for joining us tonight. And yeah, there's Derek Schreiner. Good to see you in there, Derek. And then let's see, so we can get a couple more in here. There's Diane Heitzman, Haunted Road Media's Fairy Queen. Always great to see Diane in there. And yeah, there's the Haglin. And all right, let me scroll back down. Of course, if we miss you, there's nothing personal. There's just a lot of you in here. So
a lot of new people.
Yeah, there's some new faces in the house. And some faces from a while ago visiting us again. Yeah, there's Josh Bender. Good to see you down there, Josh.
I brought friends.
Yeah, you brought friends, which is good. It's just good. And those friends, if you have not yet, please go ahead and subscribe. And be sure to check out our other shows and videos and whatnot out here.
If not, you get waterboarded.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's Christy Brown saying, great show. Thank you very, very much. All right, Andrew Cox. Yep, I think I got Andrew. Well, yeah, he was a Super Chat superstar. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. Justin, again, thanks for joining us this evening. Be sure to check out his show with Vanessa. It's next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Yep, and all of his other shows as well. So Interface Death, that's where you want to go. All right, everybody, we're going to see you in just a little bit here on Inside the Upside Down. Till then.